Yeah, and by the way, how much snow do you have down there?
It's all gone now.
Okay, let me put the share screen up here and bring this up. All righty. And we'll pull this over here. Slideshow from the beginning. Nope. From the current slide, that's what I want. All righty. And let me close that. And put up.
Should probably let Robert and John and George know we have no video for them.
Now I can't find the damn slide I wanted to start on. Ah, here we are. Okay, from the current slide. Okay. All right, well, up until now, we've gone through the details of filling out the form and on both the radiogram and the ICS 213. But the big issue here is now that I've got the form all filled out, how do I communicate a radiogram on the air? What's the magic for doing that? Now, before we get into that, there are several different levels of traffic handling in the national traffic system. And the first of these levels is what I call kindergarten. And that's our local level, basic training level. And this is what we do tonight on the ARES net. And there's club nets that do it too. This is where everybody is learning, and mistakes are expected because that's the only way we will learn to do it. And continuing to practice down at this local kindergarten level. Usually in the kindergarten level, everybody knows everybody. We can have fun kidding each other. We can learn together. And it's a great training area for moving up. The next level is what I call grammar school. And grammar schools are like the Eastern Pennsylvania Emergency Phone and Traffic Net, which is on 80 meters. And that also has a lot of beginners on it. And it is a quasi training net as well. If people get on there and make mistakes, George or I can get in touch with that person, not on the net. We don't want to ever criticize or critique anybody during the net, but we'll get together with them on a phone call or an email or whatever and coach them through the process. So that's kind of like the grammar school of traffic handling. Now, at that level, it's perfectly okay to say things like, please copy number such and such. The handling instructions are hotel x-ray. The precedence is routine. When you get into the higher level nets, people don't have to explain it because everybody knows the first thing on the form is the number. The second thing that's on the form is going to be the priority and so forth. But at this level, at the local level and the grammar school level, it's perfectly okay to say what it is that you're sending out. Then we go to high school. And high school is something like the regional net. The Eastern Pennsylvania net is just all of the different counties and areas in Eastern Pennsylvania. But the third region net is every state that has 3 call letters: Delaware, Maryland, DC, Eastern Pennsylvania, and Western Pennsylvania is the 3 call district. And that's where you start getting into a situation where a lot of the explanation words are left off and you just jump right into sending the preamble and into the text and so forth. People who go to school, a grammar school, and they're starting to get pretty good at it, should be listening to the region net and slowly gravitate into that and make that transition. Then you got your area net, and that's college. That's your bachelor's degree. And there are three area nets: Eastern, Central, and Pacific. We are in the Eastern area, and that is all of the number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8 call area districts are in uh, that Eastern area. Now, this is kind of a professional traffic handling net, and it's not uncommon on any given day to see 20 or 30 pieces of traffic handled. The net control station will tell people to go to other frequencies and pass the traffic or whatever. And it's really efficient, and they're trying to keep the number of words to a minimum to make it as efficient as possible. And finally, you have the post-grad, the PhD, and that's the TCC, the Transcontinental Core. And you have to be elected by the heads of the area nets to participate in the Transcontinental Core. And the people in the Transcontinental Core would take traffic from the Eastern area, communicate it to Central or Pacific, et cetera. So those are the different levels. And right now we're kind of down at the local level here on our ARES net. So just to give you that heads up, what's the most important thing? Proper use of phonetics. You must use the proper phonetics. You can't make them up. During World War II, a lot of times the people who were communicating in the traffic were intentionally using screwy phonetics, intentionally trying to confuse the enemy. Washington, America, to Canada, Canada, Norway. What are the Japanese or the Germans going to be thinking about when you send something like that out? Wilma, Arlene, to Carol, Carol, Nancy. Willie, Africa, to Charlie Chan's nephew. Wiesbaden, Uttenberg, Zwei, Cologne, Cologne, Nuremberg. They intentionally used weird things to just confuse the enemy. However, it became necessary to establish standard phonetics, and the ITU did that, the International Telecommunications Union, and that was done primarily for traffic control. So that's how the phonetics come along. But you really need to practice doing the phonetics, and also properly pronouncing the phonetics and the numbers. We've done some drills where we've taken everybody's name, spelled them backwards, and had people phonetically spell them. It was kind of fun drill to do that, but it's really good practice. Here is a list of all of the ITU standard phonetics and the numbers and how to say the numbers. There's three numbers in particular that you need to focus on. The first is fife. It's not five, it's fife when you send it. Niner is, you don't say nine, it's niner. And we never say oh, it's always zero whenever you're communicating numbers. So everybody should really practice the use of the proper phonetics. Then we got pro words. These are words that we use to preceding a word group to help understand it on the air. You'll hear me all the time talking about initials, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie. Those are pro words, and it lets people know that they're just the letters, ABC. It's not a word or something like that. So the pro words, there's a whole bunch of them, and you need to focus on doing them. And there's rules for them. Some of the rules, one I call the rule of threes, and we'll get into that. Hold on, I got to turn this other radio off. Sorry for that. Okay. I think that the biggest errors that you hear when people are passing traffic is improper use of these pro words. That can confuse the issue. So the pro words are really important part of passing traffic. But there's an easy way to remember to do that. I think last week I showed you a radiogram where I put my little initials in there for the pro words, and I for item, and let's see, a number would be figure, so I'd put a little F in there. And so that's a good way to remember that and start up using them. Okay, here's some of the rules. There's what I call a rule of threes, and it applies both to numbers, like here, and also letters. And when numbers, you precede the number by the word figure. So it'd be figure fife, or figures 5-9er, or figures 509er. Up to 3 digits in the number you precede it with figures. When you have 4 or more, it changes from being figures to a number group. So 1, 2, 3, 4 would be a number group, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5 would be a number group, 9 or 8, 7, 6, 5. Okay, so that's how you can tell the difference between when to use figures or a number group. Then there's a thing called a mixed group. A mixed group is where you've got letters and numbers. And that would be, the pro word would be mixed group. So fourth would be mixed group 4 Tango Hotel. The frequency, 3918 kilohertz, would be mixed group 39er 18 Kilo Hotel Zulu. So that's how you would cover mixed groups of letters and numbers. Now for words and letters, you got the same rule of threes for letters. Less than 3, you would call it initial, I. So an A, the letter A would be initial alpha. The letter I would be initial India. The initials ST for street would be initials Sierra Tango. Mrs. would be initials Mike Romeo Sierra. Anything 3 or less you would use initials. And for 4 or more, it becomes a letter group, not a number group, but a letter group. ARRL is a letter group, Alpha Romeo Romeo Lima. ARES, the Amateur Radio Emergency or Interest, what is it? What is that? That's the satellite, the International Space Station, Amateur Radio on the International Space Station would be letter group, Alpha Romeo India Sierra Sierra. And again, the mixed group, I just repeated that. That's an example of the common pro words that are used. There's lots of other pro words too and rules. We've already talked about this. That little thing up there actually has 3 uses. First of all, it's a period at the end of the sentence. So we say X-ray, and that would be initial X-ray, meaning an X for the period. The decimal point in a number group we call Romeo. So the frequency might be 3 Romeo 9er 18. Okay, and that would be a mixed group. All right, and then the other place that a dot is used is as a dot in an email address, hank@grilk.net. And we'd say hank@grilk.net. So those are the 3 different ways that you would use the word dot. Phone numbers, another interesting thing. When you're giving the phone number during the address portion of the radiogram, you would just say phone figures 570 blah 390 4215. Okay, but in the text, the telephone number takes up 3 words. The first 3 figures, the second 3 figures, and then the third, 4th figures. it takes 4 words in a radiogram text. So that is the difference of how telephone numbers are treated. The famous or infamous I spell. You have to decide when to use I spell. And it depends on what the propagation conditions are on the air, how noisy is it? Is it a complicated word or a standard word? There are some words that have multiple meanings, like a to, T-O, T-O-O, T-W-O, that you would spell out. 4, instead of the number 4, it's Foxtrot Oscar Lima, or not Foxtrot Oscar Uniform Radio. So, those are kind of words where they have mixed meanings that you would want to spell out. So that's kind of the rule there. If you feel it's prudent to spell it out, say the word and then say I spell. 4, I spell Foxtrot Oscar Romeo. When you're finished spelling out the word, leave a space so that people know that you're moving on to the next word. Example, Wayne, I spell Whiskey Alpha Yankee November Echo County. Just leave the space there so people know that you're moving away from when you spelled it to the next word. All right, here's the chart that I showed you the last time. Up here, I would put an F for figures 1, 2, 1, 0. Over here, initials, Papa Alpha. Initial X-ray, figure 7, 3. So when you take your radiogram, if you just put these little notes in there, it'll give you a heads up when you're sending the radiogram that I should call this initials or a word group, a number group, and so forth. I think that's an easy way to prepare it so you're going to do it right. Punctuations. We already know the punctuation for the end of the sentence, X-ray, it's a period or Romeo. Comma, if there's a comma in the text, you spell it out as a word. It becomes a word. Semicolon, colon, dash, slash, query, question mark. You ask a question, you put the word query, it takes a whole word in the message, and so forth. This is also pretty straightforward, but I think you get the idea. If you want to put something in quotes, John said, jump in a lake. You would say, John said, quote, jump in a lake, end quote. So the quote and the end quote would take up a total of 3 words. Okay, sending the radiogram. At our level, it's perfectly okay to say, please copy number 1. Higher levels, you wouldn't even say it. They'd just say number 1. Same thing with precedence. At our level, it's perfectly okay to say precedence, routine. Higher levels, they would just say routine or priority or welfare. And remember, emergency must be spelled out. We talked about that before. Then you get into the handling instructions. At this level, you can say handling instructions, Hotel X-Ray Bravo, or whatever it is. You get to higher levels, they just jump in and say Hotel X-Ray Bravo. And if there is no special handling instructions, you just ignore it and leave it blank. Now you get to the station of origin. That's your station, okay? And you can say station of origin and spell out Kilo 6 Hotel Tango November, HTN, or whatever your call letters are. But that's where the message first gets on the air. Okay, it's not the location of the person who created the message or gave you the message. It's your station's. You are the station who does that, and you are the station to which any replies would be sent, and it would be up to you to deliver it to whoever created the message. It's okay to say check figures 2, 4. Higher levels, they would just go and say figures 2, 4. But once again, it's perfectly okay to say check figures 2, 4. Place of origin. Now that's not necessarily your location. It's the location of whoever it was that generated the message. If you're sending a message for John Smith, it would be John Smith's address. If you created the origin, if you were the origin, you created the message, fine, put your town in there. And a date and time. I think the time is only used for emergency or priority. You rarely don't use time for routine messages. And when it comes to the date, personally, I prefer the number first and then the month, 26 January or whatever. But it's perfectly okay to use January 26th. You don't put the year in there, just a date. That takes care of how you send a radiogram preamble. Okay. When you send the addressee's name and call, it's okay to say common spelling, as in Ralph or John or Bob. If somebody's got a weird first name, do it phonetically. Middle initials, just initials, no decimal point after the initials. Middle initial delta. Second name, again, if it's very common, you can just say it, Smith or Brown or Branazuswish. Look, that's not common. That's supposed to be a funny, everybody. I got the little smile face over there. Okay. After you send a name, if the addressee is a ham radio operator, you would give his name, John Smith, amateur call, Whiskey 3, Alpha Bravo, Charlie. Then the street number, we do our figures, less than 3. It would be figures, more than 4 or more, it would be a number group. Then the street name, spell it if necessary. It may be a mixed number for 5th Street or something like that. Again, just use all of the rules that have been generated so far. The city, it's important to spell that out phonetically. The state is Papa Alpha, or just the letters. And of course, zip figures, even though it's five numbers, you don't say word group for zip codes. You just say zip figures 18438 or whatever it is. That's the only exception to the rule of 3s. And I mentioned before, phone, figures, and then just give it out. It's just 3 sets of numbers. Okay. Email addresses, same thing. Use @ for the ampersand and dot where it calls for the dot. That's how you handle the address section. After you give the address, what do we say? We say break. Stop transmitting. Wait for the receiving station to check everything that he's got so far and make sure he is satisfied he has that all correctly. If not, he'll ask you for some fills, corrections, or clarifications. When the receiving station is happy he's got all the information, he'll say go. That's all. Just go. At higher nets, they don't even say go. If you just don't hear the other guy say anything, you just proceed with the text. But at this level, it's important to just say go, and then you can send the text. Text is easy. Okay? You can say text follows. That's perfectly okay at this level. When somebody says go, you could either just start sending the text or you can say text follows. Try to limit the message to less than 25 words. It's hard to fill out the form for 25 words if you got more than 25 words. Make use of ARL codes. We'll get into that. Use the pro words I spell as often as necessary. Use your proper phonetics and pronunciation of words, letters, and numbers. Don't go too fast. A good hint for this is as you send it, write it down yourself. If you can send it and write it down yourself, you're pretty confident the other station should be able to copy it as well. Eventually, you'll get into a groove on how to do that. After you send the text, This is the only other time you use the word break. You say break for signature, but don't stop transmitting. Immediately jump to giving the signature. And this would be the signature of the person who created the message, not necessarily you. After you give the signature, you say end. That means that's the end of the message. If you got any more messages to send, you can say end one more, end two more, or whatever. If there's no more, say end no more and stop transmitting. That's it. Simple. ARL codes. Here's a couple of them. 50, greetings by amateur radio. So ARL 50 is 2 words, and you're replacing 4 words with 2 words. 54 takes 3 words, ARL 50 and 4, and it replaces 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words. 55. Boy, this replaces a whole bunch of words. Really saves a lot of space in the radiograms. Move that on. 61, again, 3 words replaces 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You get the idea. These are all fairly common ARL codes that you'll hear on the air. When you use an ARL code in the text, the 3 words, the ARL code and the number must be spelled out. You must say initials Alpha Romeo Lima, 60 I spell Sierra India X-ray Tango Yankee, 7 I spell Sierra Echo Victor Echo November. So that's the mandatory thing for using the ARL codes. Now, in this preamble, we got a number 397. It's routine. Station of origins WA2CCN. The check number is 12, Lakeville, Pennsylvania, and the date. And this is how you would send it. Number 397, routine. Whiskey Alpha 2, Charlie, Charlie, November. Check. Mixed group, Alpha Romeo Lima 1, 2, or whatever it is. Lakeville, I spell, blah, 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 blah. Initials Papa Alpha. Filed figures 27 January. Now, you can say, please copy number 397. Precedence, routine. Okay, station of origin, Whiskey Alpha 2, Charlie, Charlie, November. You can use those at the local level, but try to wean yourself from doing that as you move up. Here's an example of how to send an address. It's going to Brian Grilk, Amateur Co, KD20AZ, 23 Redison Street, Clifton, New Jersey, and that's his phone number, okay? 2, or you could say, yeah, just 2, Brian, common spelling. Grilk, I spell Golf, Romeo, India, Lima, Kilo. Amateur call, Kilo, Delta 2, Oscar, Alpha, Zulu. In his address, figures 2, 3, Edison, I spell, and spell it out. Clifton, I spell, Charlie, Lima, India, Foxtrot, Oscar, November. Initials, November, Juliet, New Jersey. Zip figures 01013. The phone figures 973 473 0108. Break for text. Stop transmitting. Okay, now somebody says go. And the message is going to be ARL 50, please call me at, and there you go. That's what the message is. So you can say text follows, or you can just immediately go into sending a text. Initials Alpha Romeo Lima, 50 I spell Foxtrot India Foxtrot Tango Yankee, initial X-ray. Please call me at figures 570-390 4215. Initial X-ray, figure 7-3. Break for signature, Hank, Amateur Quo Whiskey Alpha 2, Charlie, Charlie, November. End, no more, and stop transmitting. That's it. Where are the opportunities for handling traffic? Well, originating them. Okay, get a family, somebody, your wife wants you to send a message to her sister. She gives you the message, you put it on the air. Find a friend that you haven't talked to in a while, send him a radiogram. You should actively seek opportunities to send messages for somebody to somebody. Do it on our local level. Don't immediately jump into the EPA, EPTN until you learn and gain confidence in how to do it. On the air, you can relay a message. Okay, I can take a message from this person and I can resend it to somebody else because they can't copy the sender. You can act as a relay station. This is a very, very valuable asset on the air. And of course, you can deliver a message. You can take the message, make a phone call, and deliver it. This is a great opportunity to meet other hams and maybe get them to get involved in your club or whatever the case may be. But those are the opportunities that we should all be looking for to handle some traffic. Let's see, what's this? Phone traffics, we got two. We got our Wayne County ARES net where we can handle traffic. There's other club stations that handle traffic. We've got the section traffic net, the Eastern Pennsylvania Emergency Phone and Traffic Net 3918 at 5 p.m. You got the Region 3 net 3918 KC at 4 p.m. So at 4 p.m. you got the Region net and 5 p.m. you got the section net on the same frequency. Then you got the area net 7222 at 2:30 daily. In the transcontinental net, you're not allowed to go on that. Okay. And let me see. And we can minimize that. And I got to figure out how to go back onto the Zoom meeting. How do I do that, Lee?
Hang on a second.
New share, resume share. What do I push to go back on the video?
Hold on.
Hey, Hank, before you change that video stuff,
Yeah,
if you see a problem with the message that's being sent, for example, you were sending a message to somebody in Clifton, New Jersey. The
correct.
zip code you gave was 01013. I'm
Zero,
from Jersey. I know the zip code would be 007.
yeah, 07013.
Did you question it at the time?
Yeah, then it's fine. I just maybe I made a mistake in.
Yeah, no, I'm not challenging your. I'm just wondering if you see a mistake like that, would you address it then, or would you just pass it through the way they sent it? I guess is the question.
Okay, the zip should have been 07013. 07013. Yes, I made a mistake when I wrote that in there. And yes, that is something you would question. There's nothing
Okay.
wrong with that. You would question that on the air. Okay. I mean, I'm looking at it knowing that I wanted to send 07013. I sent it incorrectly. And somebody would say, wait a minute, that's not a New Jersey zip code. And yes, you would be perfectly okay to ask for a clarification on that. Absolutely.
I didn't know if the requirement was just send it as you got it, you know?
That's true. And there are cases where somebody will say, well, that sounds stupid, but that's the way I got it. And that's the way I'm moving it on. Okay. But there's certainly absolutely no problem at all asking for a clarification.
Okay. Oh, but that's a good
Yep.
point too, because you asked for clarification instead of just correcting it yourself and
Yep.
passing it on.
Yep,
You'd have to clarify it.
yep.
That's good.
And that's in the address, and one of the reasons why you say break for text and you wait for the other guy to make sure that he's got everything right before you even go into the text. So that would be a perfect example of looking for a clarification.
Good.
All right, any other thoughts, questions, or something before I close the
Just-
PowerPoint?
Just so you know, Hank, this
Yeah.
is how it's done.
Oh, okay.
Looney Tunes. That's all, folks. Of
All
course.
right.
We need to talk, my friend.
Yeah, I blew through that kind of rapidly. Again, I'm going to be forwarding this PowerPoint presentation to Lee. We'll put it up onto the Wayne County ARES website. You can pull it down and look at it anytime. But I pretty much covered all of the topics involved in traffic handling. And it's a lot to swallow. I totally understand that. We are doing it piecemeal during our nets, and everybody is doing a wonderful, wonderful job.